Today is National Public Lands Day, a day to recognize and celebrate national parks, wildlife refuges, and historic sites. Now, we are excited to have the Secretary of the Interior with us this morning.
That's right. We're talking, of course, about Sally Jewell. She joins us this morning. She leads an agency with more than 70,000 employees and serves as a steward to about 20% of the nation's lands.
Secretary Jewell, thank you so much for joining us this morning. She's in Atlanta at the Martin Luther King National Historic Site. This is the 20th annual National Public Lands Day. How important is this day?
Oh, this is a very important day, Jen. Service on public lands of the entire year, but we like to say every day is Public Lands Day. It's just such a great example, though, an illustration of about 180,000 people across the country, over 2,000 sites, and people are pulling weeds and painting fences and building trail and all kinds of things that make a big difference in supporting our public lands.
Secretary Jewell, this is Reynolds Wolf. I have a quick question for you. You know, one of the big topics that we have in the media today has to do with the looming government shutdown. Now, if that occurs, what kind of effect is it going to have on the public lands?
First, I'll say I'm happy to be outside of Washington, D.C. right now with the craziness that's going on, so this is very therapeutic for me. The government shutdown means just that. It means a government shutdown. So for public lands, like here, I'm at the Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Site. It will have to close if the government shuts down. That's true for public lands around the country. And I think people will really feel it. They'll feel it in a lot of different ways. So I really hope it doesn't happen. And I know that's true for all of my colleagues, not only in Interior, but across the federal family.
What about just some of the budget cuts that have been happening? How is that affecting our national parks and our access to them?
You know, the budget cuts have been very, very difficult. As a person coming from the private sector that's just been in government for about 5.5 months, I'm just astounded that we actually haven't had a regular budget for several years now. Our employees have not had raises for a long time. With sequestration, which is about as crazy as it gets, we've had to make cuts across the board in every category, even those that are most important to people. So, for example, in the national parks, the seasonal ranger program, that's a lot of times young people or people that are passionate about national parks that just work for us for the summer, where the visitors are there, have had to be cut disproportionately because of the way sequestration works. So it's impacted the visitor experience. It's made volunteer projects like this not just the margin of excellence, which they should be, but really the margin of survival in terms of taking care of these resources that the American people have entrusted to us.
Secretary Jewell, just switching gears a little bit, a lot of families are watching this morning. They've got the idea, of course, to go out and visit some of the public lands. What exactly can they expect when they visit the area? Say anything special in particular going on at these different locations?
Well, if they go to nationalpubliclandsday.org, they will see state by state what's going on in their state. And it's public lands at all levels. It's not just the national parks. It'll be city parks and state parks and county parks, as well as national parks and other public lands. So I would encourage people to go out to the web, to look at the National Public Lands Day website, which is put on by the National Environmental Education Foundation, and they can see something very close to home. And I suspect if they go out there, they're going to see just what you see here in Atlanta, and that is a lot of really enthusiastic people that are connecting with the land in a way that will really make them look at this park or this open space in a very different way in the future.
And speaking of the future, Climate Week NYC just wrapping up. The Weather Channel was the media sponsor for this. Quickly, just what are your thoughts on climate change and the national parks?
Well, first, I appreciate the Weather Channel for taking on this really, really important topic. In my job as steward of so many of the nation's public lands, you can't go on our public lands and not see the impact of climate change. In national parks, think about Glacier National Park, where we may not have any glaciers at all. Look at wildland fires like the one that's still burning in Yosemite, the Rim Fire, which is burning hotter than it might have before, and that's in part because of droughts that we've experienced throughout California. You know, whether you're in the desert where you see prolonged droughts, or you're up in the Arctic wildlife refuge where we see the pack ice moving out sooner and more beach erosion, we see the impact on our public lands at every level. And I think it's
Secretary
really
Jewell, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We've got a hard out here, but we do appreciate you joining us.